It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, and welcome to the Forum program here on Eagle Community Television. I'm Gary Shorman, and the program's brought to you by Hayes Med. You may have heard the old saying that if you can't see the forest, well, we have a guy that can not only see the forest, but he actually knows what's going on today. And our guest is the Northwest District Manager of the Forestry Department of the state of Kansas. His name's Bryan Peterson. And Bryan, good to have you on our program.
Good to be here, Gary.
Now, when we say Northwest Kansas, that is what part of Kansas? Because I think there's 6 districts in Kansas that are run by the Forestry Department in Kansas.
Yep.
How big of area do you cover?
Well, if you basically cut the state of Kansas into quarters, I cover the northwest quarter. It's actually 24 counties in total as my coverage area.
So it's a large area, and the next question is, what does a forester do? Maybe that's a better title. What do they do in Northwest Kansas?
Well, as many people realize, there really isn't a whole lot of trees in western Kansas, which is actually part of the reason why I am here. Trees provide a lot of benefits to Kansans, both in communities and in rural areas, to producers and growers and cattlemen. And really, I'm here to help out and give advice on where to plant trees, what kind of trees will grow, and help get those trees established.
You know, one of the things that, and we were talking a little bit earlier, the lot that I live on, we planted, I think, 25 trees, and it takes work to get trees started. But secondly, once they get mature, the signs of spring, they start blooming out. What a difference it makes in your yard, in your pasture, in your farm area, to be able to have trees not only provide shade, but they're also beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of unforeseen benefits of trees. One of them, is aesthetics, because what kind of value do you put on that maple or sycamore tree in your front yard? It provides shade, there's heating and cooling costs, and even the trees out along fields, windbreaks are providing soil erosion benefits. And one of the things they're looking at too is for crop yield, because trees along field edges are shown to increase crop yield by 10%. And I like to think of things in number wise, and if you got, say, 40 bushels an acre this past season, 10% of that is 4 bushels an acre. At $6 wheat, that's 24 bucks an acre that you're leaving on the table. And if you have 1,000 acres of wheat, that's 24,000 for the year. So there's a lot of benefits that trees give that just aren't seen or realized, that there's really a lot of potential for out here in Northwest Kansas.
Now, it's one thing to talk about trees, but it does take a while. You just don't plant a tree and a year later now you have almost have to think 10, 15, 20, 30 years ahead.
Yep, that's.
Can you help speed up tree growth or anything?
I can't, and if I could make it rain, I would, because that's one of the biggest things we're fighting. Going on a 4-year drought now. Rain and moisture are probably some of the biggest issues that we're having out here growing trees.
Well, let me ask this, because one of the first things I talked to you is, what does a forest ranger do? And you're really not a ranger part of things, it's more the forestry side of it.
Yep.
Explain the difference.
Well, really the difference, when you hear the term like a forest ranger, it's more of a park ranger who's assigned to a specific park, national park or state park, and they're more or less patrolling around looking for illegal activities or whatnot. Where myself as a forester, the best way to think about it is probably an agronomist. Like you said, trees take a number of years to grow up. Your typical agronomist is going to be growing a crop that's going to be harvested that spring or fall. The crop that I'm harvesting or would be looking to harvest is going to be 10, 15, and in some cases 30 years down the road that I might not even see the final harvest on it.
Well, it's interesting because some of the trees that some of the more resilient trees in our area also take the longest to grow. Some of those along the line that you grow real fast tend to die after a few years as well. So,
Yep.
is that one of the things you look at? Is going and finding what trees work best? Is that one of your areas?
That's definitely one of the things to consider, especially in the urban areas where you're going to be planting something in your yard. You got to look at the lifetime of the tree, the longevity, and the lifespan. And certainly with different species, there's different growth habits as well. They'll grow faster, slower, or be more resilient to rot and decay or other pests.
Yeah, pests become one of those things. If you have a elm tree, for example, what is it, the Dutch elm disease, and there's some elm beetles that every once in a while they get in your area that are just deadly on some of those trees.
Yeah.
How do you protect against those or help protect against those?
Well, really, we have a lot of people out there monitoring, and it's not just me. I mean, there's NRCS offices, there's K-State Extension, as well as county employees out there as well that are looking for these pests. And there's two of them really on the table right now that are a big deal. There's the emerald ash borer, and there is the thousand cankers disease of walnut trees. And the thousand cankers is just over in Colorado, so it's something we're definitely going to be keeping an eye out to identify it before it gets into the state of Kansas.
And when you cover around the state, what do you find in the northwest corner is different here than maybe you would find in other parts? Because you get the southeastern corner of Kansas, there's a lot more trees down there. You don't have to be a forester to figure that out.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between the western side of the state and the eastern side of the state. You got different soil types out here and different moisture amounts. Typically out west, average rainfall here in Hayes, you see maybe 22 inches a year. Whereas out on the far eastern side, they get probably twice that actually. I think it's about up to 44 inches a year on the far southeast side of the state.
It makes a difference when you're trying to get the water, not only for the tree, but yards and everything else there.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, and that's you'll see it in the trees and you'll see it in the crops too per year. I mean, we'll be having a drought year out here, and you travel to Kansas City and you see wheat and 6-foot corn, and
it's different there, isn't it?
It's a huge difference, yeah.
What trees are the best? Somebody that's looking to go and maybe plant some trees in their yard, what are you recommending from the forestry department?
Well, there's a lot of different trees out there. Not all of them are suited for Kansas, or western Kansas particularly. And as I mentioned earlier, soil type goes into that. Really, from a forestry standpoint, it's good not to get in the habit of planting only one kind of tree, because they ran into the same problem with Dutch elm disease. There was a lot of elm trees planted along streets, and Dutch elm disease came in and it wiped out the whole population. So if you can have a number of different trees in your yard, and pest comes through and say it knocks them out, you're still going to have those other species of trees in your yard, providing those economic benefits and aesthetic benefits we were talking about earlier.
How does a homeowner know? I mean, to some extent, you can go to a lawn and garden store. There's some stores that specialize in some of the products, but how do you really know what to plant? Are there sources, places to go?
Yeah, there's a number of different places you can look at, and especially on the internet. There's a lot of extension websites that'll go and it'll actually allow you to plug in your information, and it shoots out a list of trees that are suitable for you to plant in your yard.
Well, that's one of the keys, because you plant the wrong one, it takes too long. Especially if it dies every couple years, it gets kind of frustrating because it's not easy to do. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back And we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that, if that's okay, Brian, is maybe where you go and some resources for do that, maybe how to correctly plant a tree. Do you come out and help people plant?
I would be more than happy to. Yeah.
That gets to be some work. You heard it right here.
You know, well, I don't know about
You
digging
might be out of town that day.
I might be out of town the third day, but if you're looking for advice, I'm more than willing to help out and offer suggestions. So.
We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. Our guest is Bryan Peterson. He's a forester here. He works out of Hays and covers the northwest corner of Kansas. Our program's recorded live every Monday afternoon here at our Dillon store location. Thanks for watching. We'll be back after this.
Youthful body, tight tummy, smooth facial lines. Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery is here to help you achieve your goals and give yourself the new look you've always wanted. Greystone offers sophisticated surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures. With services now available locally, there's no need to wait any longer. Contact Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery at Hays Medical Center today or online at greystonecosmetic.haysmed.com.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications. Our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum program. Good to have you watching. Our program is brought to you by Hays Med. If you have any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, send them to me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. You can also find us on Facebook under the ECTV forum. Our guest is the forester for Northwest Kansas from the Kansas Forest Department, and his name is Bryan Peterson. And Bryan, we talked going into the break, one of the things, if you're going to invest in a tree that's going to be in your yard for 10, 20, 30 years, maybe as long as you're going to live in the home, you want to make good choices.
Yep.
And you suggested going online. What other resources do they have? Are you available from your office to help them with suggestions and ideas?
Yep. I'm available. I'm actually located in the Area 1 NRCS office, which is right up by the movie theater. It's 3012 Broadway, and I'm available for questions and inquiries on where to plant trees and what kind of species to look for. And there's a number of other things to consider too, like planting when you're going in to actually do the planting, because if you plant the tree too deep, it could be harmful for the tree and you don't get the full life expectancy out of the tree. And if you plant it too shallow, it can be the same situation.
Well, some of the right ideas for doing that not only make it more pleasurable, but it is, like we talked going to the break about helping do trees, but it is a lot of work digging the hole, getting it down there, unless you plant the little ones, and that doesn't take much, but it also takes forever to get them of any size. So a lot of times people go to stores and they see these big rows of trees that have been brought in. Is that the best choice, or what do you look for to find a tree that actually fits our area?
Yeah, when you're going in and looking for a tree to plant, one of the things to really look for and pay attention to is, its overall form. When you go through, it's not too terribly hard to tell a real healthy, vigorous plant from an unhealthy one that's not going to typically do too well when you plant it in the ground. Healthy green leaves. Look at the form too and the shape that it takes, because there's a number of things you can do to adjust its shape versus with pruning and doing some of that. But its overall shape, does it have good spread? Does it have all the branches facing one side, or how tall is it compared to some of the other trees? How big is it in overall diameter? And a lot of those, taking into a lot of those things into consideration can really help you out in planting a healthy tree.
Now you're just starting this. You've been in Hays for about 3 years now, but you're just starting this as a new job. What would you like to see over the next few years to be able to accomplish as a forester here in Northwest Kansas?
It's just starting into a new position. I would love to see all kinds of trees planted. As I was talking about earlier, there's a ton of benefits to trees, both in communities and out on the countryside as well. And my goal for going into this position is to bring more trees to western Kansas. I have people come up and they jokingly say, well, what's a forester do in western Kansas? You only got one tree to look after. There are more than one tree. There's a lot of trees, but I would like to add to that because in that statement is part of the problem. We need to educate on the many benefits of trees to people.
Just saw a report the other day that people think of Kansas as being flat, and actually Kansas is only 7th in the country of states for being flat. Same way with trees. A lot of people think flat, equates to having no trees, but in reality, you look at some of the beautiful trees along the river areas in Kansas. You just go in Big Creek and Hayes, there's some beautiful, great big trees down there. To see that happening. Appreciate your time being here. And again, you're located over on Broadway Street, just across from the mall cinemas over there. Stop by. Are there online sites available or phone numbers available?
If you go on Google and type in Kansas Forest Service, we'll be the first hit on that search, and you can go online. It lists all our districts as well as all our foresters, and there's a lot of online resources on that website as well that are available to look up.
Well, Bryan, thanks for being on our program today. Your wife was on just a couple of weeks ago, and you guys can compare how you did here, but terrific job today, and congratulations on the new job. But frankly, as you drive through Hayes, drive through any of the communities here in western Kansas, finding a nice tree-lined street with beautiful trees is just great. Hope you can make more of that happen.
I hope so too.
Bryan Peterson is our guest. He's a forester here in northwest Kansas for the Kansas Forest Department. Thanks for watching the Forum program on Eagle Communications. It's brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Youthful body, tight tummy, smooth facial lines. Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery is here to help you achieve your goals and give yourself the new look you've always wanted. Greystone offers sophisticated surgical and non-surgical cosmetic procedures. With services now available locally, there's no need to wait any longer. Contact Greystone Cosmetic and Reconstructive Surgery at Hayes Medical Center today or online at greystonecosmetic.hayesmed.com.